male men were happening on the eastern seaboard in the tri-state area. It's not a southwestern thing, but we thought, how can we come together in a nimble and rapid way? And it's this devised work thing that I'm just barely learning, you know, the term and the work. But as an ensemble, which Culture Clash is at times, even though we're not an improv group, that's what we've done a lot of the times. And so I'm looking forward to that 9 rounds of Transborder Despair as a new piece with Gomez Pena, and expanding the Friendship Circle of America in Blood as kind of a loose new title that we're calling it. But we've got to come together and find a room in San Francisco to play and to find it. And it's a living archive of some of his past works and some of my past works, but where we can intersect with the new work. The other piece I'm thinking of is we got a call when we were at OSF from Kate Worski to come on up to Seattle because there was a human trafficking situation up there we knew nothing about. And we should have known about it. We didn't even know who Kate was, you know, but you could hear the urgency in her voice, and the vision was hers, and the idea was hers. And she's saying, Culture Clash, come up here and play for a week. And it'll be interview-based, but we'll take you to the port into Aurora, Washington, and then we'll get in a room, and we're like, can we have a shipping container in the rehearsal hall? Because we want to play with that symbolically. And so it feels very much a devised work with Kate, a video interview-based, but we need a video, a person, and a composer all at the same time in devising the work. And that seems somehow organic to the idea.
Richard, let me ask you really quickly, and hang on 1 second. So you work as a playwright on your own, and you work as in this company, Culture Clash, creating work together.
Yeah.
Is the same infrastructure serving both parts of your, in both circumstances for you, or are you finding that there are different types of support structures that are needed depending on what you're doing? Is there, can you move through it as a continuum of your own artistic practice, or are you switching gears when you do it?
We were switching gears and having a few hiccups along the way, and it can be confusing for the hosting institution, like OSF wants to be very respectful of Culture Clash. Directors want to know what's the Culture Clash process. Sometimes they're dismayed to know it's a bottle of Knob Creek, and that we're not an improv group. You know, it's that thing Amy Freed talked about this morning, the private thing for a playwright, and then the moment it becomes this public thing. And the devised work, I love how it just jumpstarts the public part of it. It goes in the rehearsal hall. It is a public matter, and so it takes the preciousness a little bit. Although but we're learning how to articulate better what the needs would be when the group goes in to do like a human trafficking piece, and when it's just the individual artist, and be more clear on the way in, so it's not confusing to the institution that's having us. But we've had a few hiccups, and we've found that we have to allow for Herbert to go do his one-man shows, and Rick to work at Pollo Loco and the things that he does. No, I'm kidding. To do the individual things and then to come back, and hopefully it brings energy back into the collective. But we're going on our 26th year, and it's that part we haven't learned how to do better, but we're energized by the next 4 commissions.
Sandra Gibson with Arts Presenters, and we're a service organization. So we've come in and out of this mostly through projects where we're providing some financial support. And I think language around this is problematic, but I think it's a both and so when we started out with the Ensemble Theater Collaborations Project, it was sort of like independent artists ensembles. We had a hard time kind of defining what this was. We went to even the definition of ensemble and had a hard time. And we knew there were individuals doing this work, and then the partners were to be producing theaters and presenters, and there were even definitional problems there. But at the end of the day, it was about this alignment of resources that came from a variety of contributors and collaborators that had something different to offer. And what we were after are there new ways of working, new partnerships, new mechanisms, new organic generative ways to get this done. That's what emerged. And even the director's circle that has emerged out of this, that is now at the Public Theater, we're a small partner in that. Those producing theaters, those regional theaters and resident theaters and presenters, they're sharing practice, but they really have come together to support the development of these artists, some of whom have homes and some of whom do not. And they spend most of their time figuring out how do all these resources come together. What's that co-location and alignment and allocation of resources, whether it's an infrastructure or not. That's sort of the system.
Mm-hmm.
You can't use that?
I'm just afraid I'll have to do this. I can't hear, but I'll try. Michael Road, Sojourn Theater, and I teach at Northwestern University, where I teach devising in a position that was created a couple years ago within a department that's fairly traditional and has acting and directing and musical theater. So now I teach in the undergrad and the graduate programs this word. And I just want to say, I want to start with Viola Spolin's work, Group Theater, Second City, Living Theater, Open Theater, El Teatro Campesino, Worcester Group, San Francisco Mime Troupe, Performance Art Movements, Roadside, Cornerstone, Big Art Group, Looking Glass Theater. I feel like the thing that gets lost sometimes as we try to use words to define for the sake of funding and scholarship and just ways to know how to talk about collaboration is that most of the work that we're talking about when we talk about collaboratively created work was born because some people wanted to do something and didn't know any other way to do it, or did not have access to a way to make the thing and distribute the thing that they wanted to. And I think that when we try to sort of find a singular methodology, or somebody thinks it is this or it is that, it is as dangerous as imagining that playwrights write the same way, about the same things, for the same audiences. And I just want to sort of note that I have 18-year-olds say to me, what is devising? 30-year-old graduate students never ask that question. They want to make stuff. But the 18-year-olds are so desperate for an answer. I don't want us to be 18-year-olds. You know, like I want us to be the 30-year-olds and above, you know. I want us to be having the conversation about the why and the what for and the who with and the who for. And I feel like, you know, my company makes original work, and last summer, right, we wanted to explore the urban-rural conversation in the United States of America. And I could have written a play. And that did not seem like the way for us to do this. So we spent a year and a half partnering with a town of 6,800 people, and at the same time working with partners in Portland, Oregon. And we made a 3-act show where the first act happened with 50 miles between the two locations. The first act happened with actors and audience in Portland, and the first act happened in Malala with actors and audience. And the second act was buses coming towards each other. And the third act was a shared meal where the urban and rural audiences sat together, participated in the end of the story, had conversations, and ate a delicious meal. We had that idea 3 years ago. That was not an easy conversation to have about how to imagine ways to do that with partners and institutions, and, well, we want to go about it this way. People were open to talking to us. We couldn't articulate it in ways strongly enough, early enough, to make sense of it in institutional context. So we just did it. And it was really hard, and parts of it went great, and parts of it we could do better. But I think that a lot of this work we're talking about is about, like, what's the starting impulse, what's the process, and then who are the right partners? And a lot of the right partners are coming around the table, and you're giving a chance for lots of different right partners to be together, which is great. I just want to make sure we talk about the right thing, which I don't think is what is devising. And I think, and I know that's not the only.
I'm not asking that at all.
Yeah.
We did a whole conversation about that.
Yeah.
That's in the book.
Yeah.
I'm asking about the infrastructure itself, and for the support of new work, and whether or not that same infrastructure is serving this continuum, and how it is that we. I mean, you
Yeah,
alluding to it there, Michael,
yeah.
that there's a strain when you try to put something together that falls outside of
Yeah.
the box of how play gets made.
Yeah.
That it can be more challenging to find the path and the resources and the support of the institutions that make play, that produce plays. I mean, you're talking about presenters as alternate there.
Well, and I'm thinking, listening to Michael, do you want that, was that a one-time experience, or do you want it to exist again?
As Morgan, Janess, and I talk about, it is a replicable mechanism for theatrical engagement.
That's what Morgan represents now. Replicable mechanisms for theatrical engagement.
But
Because
we're
there's
doing-
some work when it's created is actually appropriate to
That's
tour.
right. That's
and
right.
some that maybe gets created once and
That's what we're working on now.
Can I pull you, Jim, for just a second? Because yeah, as the table manifested, you're like a producing organization at the table. Do you have to use different types of resources? Is the infrastructure that you're built on in support of playwrights the same thing you go to when you're doing something like ERS or any of those other companies?
Well, our habit is to try and take on a project and an artist, or if the artist is a group of artists, the pathway is then created. So there's no one way that we do anything.
Uh-huh. And do you sense a tension between the writers that you support and the ensembles you support in terms of the resources or time?
No.
Is there scarcity there?
No.
Because one of my big fears is that we're in this whole scarcity mindset. The mindset that the development of new ways of creating work is actually taking, the feeling of writers that I talk to is that it's becoming sexier to devise work than write a play. I'm an old-fashioned artist if I just write a play. And you heard a little bit of that already this morning. And that there's this new kind of interest in devised work that is in some ways a slipping away of opportunity for people who write plays. And their own, in the way that, I mean, Amy, I'm going to keep coming back to it because I think, Amy, you spoke for a lot of playwrights in the way that you described the process of writing plays. And so I'm sorry to keep singling that comment back out, but I think it puts it into real relief. And you're working in institutions, devising
We
work at
work
this
in
point.
and out of institutions, and to be honest with you, it's.
I'm sorry.
My name is Stephen Sapp from Universes. I feel like the word devised and all that stuff, like a year maybe, it became the hot thing.
Right.
Someone said to me, "Oh, so you do devised work?" And we do. I mean, we had to work really hard to be considered an ensemble. We had to work really hard to be considered a theater company. And so it's like, and now we're devised now. But for us, it's like we've learned how to create work